too. He knew something was wrong the moment the music stopped. The wedding lawn, moments ago alive with laughter and celebration, had fallen into an uneasy quiet. White flowers lined the aisle, fairy lights glowed softly as the sun dipped low. And guests in elegant clothes turned their heads in unison toward the entrance. Marcus Reed stood still, his daughter's small hand wrapped tightly in his own. "Daddy," 6-year-old Lily whispered. "Why did they stop the music?" Marcus knelt slightly, bringing himself to her level. "It's okay, sweetheart. Stay right here." 2. He straightened slowly, already knowing the answer. 2 security guards were walking toward him. They didn't look at Lily. They didn't look at the invitation in his hand. They didn't look at the gold cufflinks he had polished that morning. They looked at his skin. "Sir," one guard said sharply, "you need to step away from the entrance." Marcus blinked once. "Is there a problem?" "This is a private event," the second guard added. "Guess only." Marcus held up the cream-colored envelope. "I'm invited." The first guard barely glanced at it. "Staff entrance is around the back." Ma felt Lily's grip tighten. "I'm not staff," Marcus said calmly. The guards exchanged a look, the kind Marcus had seen too many times in his life. The look that's a decision already made. "Sir, don't make this difficult," the guard said. "We've been told to remove unauthorized individuals." Around them, whispers began. "Who is that? Did he sneak in? Why is he standing there?" Marcus felt the familiar weight settle on his chest. Not anger, not fear. Humiliation. "I'm here for the wedding," Marcus said evenly. "My name is Marcus Reed." One guard scoffed. Lily's eyes filled with tears. "Daddy, are we in trouble?" Marcus swallowed. "No, baby, we're not." The second guard reached for his radio. "We've got a situation." And then it happened. A voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Stop!" Every head turned. The bride stood at the end of the aisle. Still in her wedding dress. Still glowing. Still holding her bouquet. But her face was no longer smiling. "Why is the music stopped?" she demanded. The guards stiffened. "Ma'am, we're handling—" "No," she snapped. "You're not. You're embarrassing yourselves." Shiz lifted the hem of her dress and walked forward, ignoring gasps from the guests. "Why?" she said slowly, eyes locked on the guards. "Are you blocking my father?" The lawn froze. Jet. The guards turned pale. Marcus felt Lily gasp beside him. "Daddy!" "Jet cheesy, you..." The bride reached them and knelt in front of Lily, smiling gently. "Hi, sunshine." Then she stood and took Marcus's hands. "This," she said loudly, enough for everyone to hear, "is my father. The man who raised me. The man walking me down the aisle." Silence crashed over the crowd. The first guard stammered. We thought youth all," the bride interrupted coldly, "because he's black." A murmur rippled through the guests. Marcus's heart pounded. The bride turned to the wedding planner. "Why were my father and sister stopped?" The planner looked horrified. This was never communicated. "I want them gone," the bride said, pointing at the guards. "Ma'am, please," one guard began. "Leave," she repeated. "Now." The guards backed away, faces burning. The bride turned to Marcus, eyes shimmering. "I'm so sorry, Dad." Marcus exhaled slowly. "You don't need to apologize for someone else's ignorance." Shirt hugged him tightly. "I'll promise myself this wouldn't happen." "Not today." Marcus smiled sadly. "It always tries to. She straightened and faced the guests. My father taught me dignity, she said. He taught me patience. And he taught me that silence in moments like this is permission. She gestured toward Marcus. This man worked 3 jobs so I could go to college. He missed birthdays so I could have opportunities. He sat in rooms where he was on tea welcome so I could one day stand in rooms where I would be. Guests shifted uncomfortably. There. If anyone here believes my father does not belong, she continued, voice unwavering, you are welcome to leave. Right now. No one moved. Shit. The groom stepped forward, placing a hand on Marcus's shoulder. Sir, he said sincerely, it's an honor. Marcus nodded, emotions thick in his throat. The bride turned to the band. Start the music. As the first notes played again, Marcus took Lily's hand and began walking down the aisle, not just as a father, but as a man reclaiming a moment that prejudice had tried to steal. Eyes followed him now, not with suspicion, but with shame. Halfway down the aisle, Marcus felt tears blur his vision. He remembered being stopped by police at 17. Being followed in stores. Being passed over for promotions. He remembered learning to stay calm so others wouldn't feel threatened. And now, here he was, walking his daughter toward her future. When he reached the altar, the bride kissed his cheek. I see you, she whispered. I always have. 4. The ceremony continued. But the story didn't end there. Videos of the incident had already spread online. A guest had recorded everything. By morning, millions had watched it. Headlines read, Bride stops wedding to defend black father from racism. The venue issued an apology. The security company terminated the guards. Debates erupted across social media. Marcus didn't speak publicly. He didn't need to. Because the most powerful statement had already been made by a bride in white who refused to let love stand on injustice. Weeks later, Marcus received a letter from Lily's school. She had written an essay titled, My Dad Belongs Everywhere. Marcus framed it. Because sometimes, the loudest fight against racism isn't a scream. It's a moment of love that refuses to move aside. As Marcus Reed stood at the altar, the weight of the moment pressed gently against his chest. He kept his posture straight, but inside, his heart was racing. Not from nerves about the ceremony, but from the collision of memories that refused to stay buried. The whispers had stopped, the judgmental eyes softened, yet the echo of what had just happened lingered like a bruise beneath the skin. He glanced down at Lily, who was now smiling again, her small fingers relaxed in his. She had stopped crying, but he knew she wouldn't forget this moment. Children never did. They absorbed the world as it was handed to them, unfiltered and unprotected. As the ceremony continued, Marcus drifted back in time. He remembered being 8 years old, standing outside a birthday party he wasn't invited into. His mother had pulled him close that day and whispered, Sometimes people decide who you are before they know you. That doesn't make it true. He understood it now. Years later, as a teenager, Marcus learned how to carry himself carefully. Keep your hands visible. Lower your voice. Don't move too fast. Don't argue, even when you're right. Especially when you're right. He learned these rules not from books, but from survival. From watching his father stop by police for fitting a description. From teachers who questioned his intelligence and classmates who assumed his silence meant weaknesses. By the time Marcus became a man, he had mastered composure. But composure did not erase pain. The officiant. S voice faded into the background as Marcus looked at his daughter, the bride, standing tall, unshaken, fearless. She had grown into a woman who refused to bend to injustice, and in that moment, Marcus felt something he rarely allowed himself to feel. pride without restraint. When the ceremony ended and applause filled the lawn, guests stood, some clapping enthusiastically, others hesitantly, their faces still flushed with discomfort. The bride and groom kissed, and the music swelled again, but the celebration felt different now, heavier, more honest. Oh, at the reception, Marcus found himself approached by strangers. "I'm so sorry," one woman said quietly, eyes downcast. "That should never have happened," another murmured. A man shook his hand awkwardly, overcompensating with enthusiasm. Marcus thanked them politely, but he knew apologies spoken after exposure were easier than courage shown in the moment. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the fairy lights glowed brighter, Marcus slipped away from the crowd and sat on a bench near the edge of the garden. His wife joined him, resting her head on his shoulder. "I wanted today to be perfect," she whispered. Marcus smiled softly. It was honest. That matters more. Inside the reception hall, phones buzzed non-stop. Videos of the confrontation had spread faster than anyone anticipated. A guest had captured the moment the guards blocked Marcus, the bride's voice cutting through the tension, and the silence that followed her words. Within hours, the clip was everywhere. By midnight, the story was trending. The next morning, Marcus woke to dozens of messages he hadn't asked for. News outlets wanted interviews. Activists wanted statements. Strangers wanted him to explain his pain for their understanding. He declined them all. Marcus had never wanted to be a symbol. He had only wanted to be a father walking his daughter down the aisle. But the world rarely allowed black men that simplicity. The venue issued a formal apology, filled with carefully chosen words and corporate regret. The security company released a statement about miscommunication and additional training. 2 guards were suspended. An investigation was announced. Marcus read the statements in silence. His daughter called him that afternoon. "I'm sorry if I made things bigger than they needed to be," she said hesitantly. Marcus stopped walking. "You didn't make anything bigger," he said firmly. "You made it visible." She exhaled. "I was scared for a second. Not for me. For Lily. I don't ever want her to think this is normal." Marcus closed his eyes. "Neither did I. That's why I stayed calm. That's why you spoke." Things. In the weeks that followed, life slowly returned to routine, but the impact of that day did not fade. Lily began asking questions. "Daddy," she asked one evening, "why did those men think you didn't belong?" Marcus knelt beside her. "Because some people are taught fear instead of understanding." "Did you do something wrong?" "No," he said gently. "And neither did you." She nodded thoughtfully. "When I grow up, I won't let anyone talk to you like that." Marcus smiled sadly. "I hope you won't have to." At school, Lily wrote an essay. "My dad is kind. He helps people. He belongs everywhere. If someone says he doesn't, they are wrong." Her teacher sent a note home saying the class had gone quiet while Lily read it aloud. Marcus framed the essay. Meanwhile, conversations sparked across the country. Weddings, workplaces, schools, people debated how racism appeared, not always as violence, but as assumption. As authority misused. As quiet exclusion. Marcus never joined those debates publicly. He didn't need to. Because that day had already spoken for him. One evening, months later, Marcus attended another formal event, a charity gala. As he approached the entrance, a security guard paused, then smiled and stepped aside. "Good evening, sir." Marcus nodded and walked in. The moment was small, but it mattered. At the gala, someone asked him, "How did you stay so calm at the wedding?" Marcus considered the question. "Because anger would have protected them," he said. Calm exposed the truth. Years later, Lily would remember the wedding not as the day racism interrupted joy, but as the day her family refused to shrink. She would remember her father standing tall, her sister standing fearless, and love refusing to move aside. Marcus Reed never asked the world to change for him. He simply stood where he belonged, and in doing so, forced the world to look again.